welcome to lesson 2. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for enrolling in the course. It means a lot to me that you have faith that I can lead you down this road and we're going to have a good time. So now that you're inside the class, we're going to get rolling here with Ecamm. But one quick thing that I want to do specifically in this lesson, and I know there's a lot of ramp up. We did the YouTube in the last lesson, and today we're going to look at making sure all your hardware is working correctly with Ecamm. So this is going to involve, if you haven't done it already, downloading Ecamm and installing it. And then we're going to test out your microphone, your camera, and any other devices that you may have connected that you plan to use for Ecamm, speaker systems, that kind of stuff. Generally speaking, this goes off without a hitch. But when you are introducing third-party hardware into your Macintosh, as you may know already, sometimes things can go sideways on you, especially if you update drivers without doing a little bit of research. If there's one thing that I've learned as I've spent the better part of my life in the technology sector is you don't always want to necessarily go after the very first release of something. Maybe wait for a 0.1 or even a 0.01 release. And this goes specifically with anything that interfaces with hardware, just because you never know, something could break and then you're dead in the water. So Ecamm itself cannot break, but the interfaces to the hardware that is connected to your Macintosh can break. So real quick though, I wanted to spend some time just going over hardware requirements for your Macintosh. So I have in my studio here, I've got two Macs. I've got a MacBook Pro that is an Intel-based MacBook Pro, and that's what I'll be working on for this lesson. And I also have my studio Mac Mini, and that Mac Mini is running Ecamm currently. It's doing the recording that I'm doing right now, and it's connected to everything else. So the reason why I use the laptop for parts of this course is because it's a fresh install. So it's just like if you had Ecamm running for the very first time, and I'm going to go through it just as you are. So we'll all experience the same things together, for better or for worse. So in terms of Macintosh, if you own one currently, great. First of all, you can complete this lesson. Second of all, you want to make sure that you have something that is capable of running Ecamm. What is that exactly? Well, believe it or not, the recent technological developments that Apple has made with the M series of chips has gone a long way to making power available to the average user at a very affordable price point. So in the case of what we're doing here, this used to require a Mac Pro. You know, we're talking anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000 worth of hardware investment just on the Macintosh side to get anything of any kind of professional quality out of. Luckily, you're entering this space as a user who has access to this M series technology. So now you have not only lower costs, you have lower power, and you have greater capabilities in the hardware. However, you want to make sure that you're properly configured. A lot of the Apple computers that are being produced today do not have upgradable or user serviceable parts. And that is of a concern. You want to make sure that you're able to upgrade anything you want on the Mac, or you're willing to commit to that particular configuration for a length of time, whatever your time frame is. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years. Probably won't make it 10 years, but you'll be able to make it at least 5 in most instances. So my MacBook Pro is one of the late model Intel-based MacBook Pros. It has 32 gigabytes of RAM. It has a 2 terabyte onboard hard drive SSD, and it's got the latest Intel technology from about 4 years ago, give or take. And believe it or not, compared to my other computer, that computer, by the way, was over $4,000. My other computer, The one that I'm running right now and have all of my hardware attached to is a Mac Mini that cost me less than $1,000, has half the RAM, has a quarter of the hard drive space, and can run my camera capture software. It can run the microphone through the audio interface. It can obviously run Ecamm. It is a very powerful little computer for not that much money. And so you want to make sure that you're looking at something along those lines when you're doing your first Ecamm build out. If you haven't already selected your hardware, if you have at least a Mac Mini running with 16 gigabytes of memory, please do not run it on a MacBook Air or anything with 8 gigabytes of memory. You will struggle. Trust me on this. So 16 gigabytes is the lowest I would go. And frankly, I do have troubles if I have multiple applications running while I'm trying to do an Ecamm session at 16 gigabytes. So I'll show you how to kind of navigate around a little bit so that you are essentially clearing out all the available GPU and CPU availability so that you can get the most out of Ecamm without any stutters or anything like that. Also keep in mind that Ecamm is very much GPU, graphics processor unit intensive. Luckily with the M series chips, both the CPU and the GPU are they're not one and the same, they're separate cores, but they complement each other. And there's far more GPU capacity on the M series based Macintoshes than there is on the Intel based Macs. So without getting too much into the technical details, if you want to read up on that, Apple's got plenty of information on their website. But I would start with at least a Mac Mini, 16 gigs of memory. Now, keep in mind with a Mac Mini, you're going to need a monitor, keyboard, mouse. The Mac Mini is simply that. It is the Mac Mini. There's no other additional hardware available. You could go with an iMac. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could go with an iMac. If you're going to do an iMac, do a late model iMac, meaning something like an M2 and later, mainly because in almost all cases, most Ecamm users, if not initially, eventually they will add another monitor to their setup. And the iMac actually allows for an additional monitor, but you start putting more and more monitors on your system, you start taxing the GPUs almost unnecessarily, and obviously that can lead to poor performance. So the other one that you might want to look at is the Mac Studio. Now, the Mac Studio is not a cheap product. It's roughly, with tax and everything, and a entry-level buy-in is about $2,000, so it's double that of a Mac Mini. But they come with 32 gigs of memory and go higher than that. If I had my dream machine, it would be the Mac Pro, and the Mac Pro would be configured with maximum available memory and the latest M series chips. But the way Apple works, the Mac Pro is, that's that one that has kind of the cheese grater look in front, and it has the super nice monitors that charge a ridiculous amount of money just for the wheels that go on the bottom of this Mac Pro. But it would be like kind of the end all be all for if you could amortize it over the cost of maybe 4 or 5 years. Just depends on how long you plan on doing this. But you're looking at $10,000, $12,000. And I know most of us don't have that kind of money laying around just to buy on one thing. And if you did, you probably wouldn't be buying a Mac. So here we are, Mac Mini, MacBook Pro, and we're going to get started on my MacBook Pro, as I said. So look, that's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to test out our hardware, make sure the hardware is working, and then we'll get over to the Ecamm section, which will actually be in the next chapter, the user interface, because that's going to be a biggie. That's actually going to be a 2-part lesson because there's so much going on in the Ecamm interface. Just navigating around, I want to make sure you're capable of at least troubleshooting your hardware first, and then we can get into the software, because if all the hardware is working correctly, the software will behave as expected. Okay, let's get rolling. Okay, so you can see that I've kind of set the mood in the studio here. I changed my light colors a little bit. And now we're going to get into what it's like to get rolling with Ecamm from the get-go. Now, the way that I've got this planned out is that we're going to use our iPhones to act as our cameras for Ecamm. And then we're going to work with some, I would say, specialized microphones. And the reason for this is that there's actually multiple reasons, but the primary reason is viewers, your audience, do not like when it's crappy audio. That'll be the first turn off. And then if image quality is not a distant second, but it is a second place. So if your audio quality is just utter crap, or it's staticky or whatever, you can't really make out, it sounds like you're underwater, not going to be good for you. So we're going to set you up with some potential directions that you can take your audio journey in. And then we'll also get the camera set up and dialed in correctly. And then we'll set up Ecamm with just kind of get everything going. We get it downloaded to our computers and then start it up and sign in either as a trial mode, or if you've already purchased it, then putting in your code. And if you've already started Ecamm and you're just ready to get through all this mess, that's fine. I would encourage you to stick around for the first portion of this particular video, because this is where we're going to tune the camera, we're going to tune your audio, because those are the basics. That's really what you need to get going. I mean, obviously, if you're investing in Ecamm, and I've said this already, if you're investing in Ecamm, you want to look your best. You want to sound your best. That's the whole reason for doing this. And so you want to make sure that those things are taken care of, dialed in before you start your Ecamm journey, you know, the length of it. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to my desktop view on my laptop here. And I am still up here. Hey, how's it going? And so you'll be able to see me. I'll look into this camera every now and then. I have my laptop display, which is right here. And you can see where my cursor is. And then I will also pretty soon be on screen on the big screen here. Finally, I've set up my keyboard so you can see that. And the reason I did that is if for some reason you miss a key press, but keep in mind that if I hit any keys on my keyboard, they pop up on screen like that. So you don't necessarily need to be concerned with that. But again, I just did it. And then you'll also be able to see my setup a little bit more detail. Okay, so first things first, let's go ahead and get your cameras set up. So I've got here, and I've got it connected via USB. I've got it here, you can see it. This is my iPhone. This is actually an iPhone 14. That's not even the latest and greatest, and I'm quite happy with it. The cameras are fine. So I'm actually, you know, this is going to work for us. If you have a 12, basically a 12 through 15, your camera quality should be just fine for doing Ecamm. So I also have on top of my laptop screen here, this is a Belkin magnetic. It's a MagSafe mount that clips to the top of your monitor. This one actually is designed, if you see real carefully here, let me go back to my other screen. If you see, this one is designed so that it actually clamps to a larger monitor. This would be the front of the monitor. This would be the back. I think I gave away the one that I had for my laptop specifically to my son. So I'm going to use this one. It still works, but this one is Belkin. And what's nice about it is you put your iPhone on what appears to be the backside here, and, you know, MagSafe, boom. And I'm also connected my camera using the USB connection. So USB to Lightning. This is going to give you the best performance out of your iPhone's camera. And I can already see that that's going to go too far back. So I'll make some quick adjustments there and hopefully get that right where I need it to be. There we go. That should work. Let's level that out. Sometimes it's good to play around if you have a leveler to make sure that your camera is level. Otherwise, you're going to look tilted. Now, this camera here is on a gimbal, so you're not I'm never gonna look really tilted on here, but the iPhone's camera is not, and it will look tilted. Okay, so we're back to our screen here, and I installed this application called Camo, and this is the application that we're gonna use to enable the camera on your iPhone as a camera for Ecamm. And actually, it'll be the virtual camera for anything, any application that uses a camera input on your Mac. It will work for that. The reason why I went with Camo and not something like Continuity Camera is because Continuity Camera doesn't have the same flexibility, same controls, and frankly, I've seen too many support questions about Continuity Camera not working right, not working as expected, disconnecting, blah, blah, blah. I've been using Camo now for a bit, and it works flawlessly. It never disconnects, especially if you use the USB. And I would totally recommend going with the USB connection instead of Wi-Fi, just because you don't want it to be choppy. Every single camera that I use in my studio, every single microphone that I use in my studio is wired up. And that the reason for that is that you're not dealing with interference or networking, sharing issues, or any of that garbage. You're just doing what you're doing, and everything just works correctly. Okay, so let's go back to the laptop here, and I'll show you where to go to get Camo. You can see, that's our Ecamm, but you can see here, it's at a website called reincubate.com, and if you go to reincubate.com/Camo, that will take you to this page. And then you just click the download link. It downloads Camo Studio to your Mac and then enables it. And once it's installed, it'll show up as an icon right here in your toolbar. So we'll go ahead and put Safari away for the minute, and we'll go into Show Camo Studio, and it pops up. And here I am. Okay, so what's going on here? First things first, let's go ahead and talk about how you pick your device that you're using. So my iPhone 14 is running Camo on the phone itself. It's a free download. Download it to your phone via the App Store, and it'll work. It just you turn it on, and then it'll accept the USB connection. It's more or less fire and forget type thing. Now, if you go down to the screen here, the Camo Studio screen, you can pick your devices that you want to enable Camo with. Everything else on here, I don't necessarily want or need. You can also pair devices, and that'll give you a QR code, which is useful if for some reason you can't get a specific device to work right out the gate. Get the QR code, and that kind of helps you navigate through the right settings and the right drivers and or applications that you need to download for your device. But your phone should just show up. And also on your phone, sometimes you've seen, I'm sure you've seen this when you've connected your phone via USB in the past to your Mac. It'll say authorize or trust this computer. Make sure you tell it to trust, obviously. And that should only ask you once, although I've seen it on the Mac multiple times, and I don't know why. If I trust it, I trust it. Maybe you lose trust at some point. I have no idea. What are you thinking, Apple? There's too many, I'll have my phone, the way that the phone is sitting right now, the front of the phone is facing away from me, so I never know what pops up on the screen. I don't need to know because I've got all these computers behind me basically mirroring what I can do on my phone. So it doesn't matter. But in the case of when let's say you're out on the road and you're doing an Ecamm presentation, you have no idea what's going on the backside of your phone. So just check that and make sure that you are dialed in correctly and that the trust settings are correct. And you should just see this image pop up, okay? You can select also your different lenses. Now, for the most part, you're just going to use the wide lens. And when you think wide, it's not that wide. But you can see I've got not only my second monitor over here in shot, but all the way over. This is about from the monitor to this wall over here is about 6 feet, 7 feet or so. So it does encompass quite a bit in the shot. If you wanted to, you could go to telephoto. I'm just going to caution you right now. See, you don't want to do that. That's useless. Now, obviously, I could aim the camera up, but I don't recommend that. What I recommend doing is that there's actually a zoom setting in Ecamm. Camo also has one, but I don't recommend having multiple zooms, because then you're 2 timing or 3 timing or 4 timing your digital zoom, and the image is going to start to get grainy, because nothing on the iPhone 14, 15, 13, 12 is optical. It's all digital zoom. So you don't use digital zoom if you don't have to. All right. And then you've got your focus settings that you can play with here. You have a manual focus. You have basically a click to focus, and then you've got an autofocus. I just leave it on autofocus. Now here, Camo, as I mentioned, is a free app. It's a free app for the phone, and it's actually a free app as the desktop version. However, there are pro features, of course, that you could take advantage of. For instance, right now, my camera is at 720p, which is a decent resolution, but certainly not the 4K resolution that I'm doing these lessons on. So in the event that I've got, if I go back to my screen here, even this image on the camera that I've got right here, because it's in webcam mode, I can only do 1080. The whole screen's at 4K, so that's nice. I have a nice big canvas. But my point is this: if you're going to use your camera on the iPhone full screen, you might want to look at using some of the other resolutions. So you can see here, you can go to 4K even. These are 9:16, so these are actually portrait mode. You can go 4K 16:9, but again, you see right here, Pro. So you want to make sure that you upgrade to those. If you want that resolution, Camo's not a very expensive application. It's on an annual basis or subscription, or you can do a lifetime. Either way, just depends on how much you plan on using your phone. If you're going to use it all the time, if you're on the road a lot and you don't want to carry around an extra camera, you got everything you need on your phone there, great. My thing that I would advise you against with using your phone as your primary camera in all instances is what happens if you get a call. After all, it still is a phone. And even if you set it to do not disturb mode and you do get a call, you just, you sometimes you forget this stuff. There are checklists that we will go through later in the course that show you the things to go through, setting do not disturb mode and stuff like that. But sometimes we forget, and next thing you know, you've got a vibrating or ringing phone in the middle of your Ecamm presentation. So that's why I recommend going with a camera that's dedicated and using that one instead of what's on your iPhone. And it's totally up to you, but to get started and certainly to do these lessons, your iPhone's fine. There are audio settings here, so you can use a system default. You can go through and use different audio sources. Right now, let's just go ahead and we'll set it to camera. We'll go camera mono. There we go. And then presets. So let's say I want, highly saturated, or if I wanted to do something like tropical Hawaii. Let's see what that does. Okay. Let's go look at some other ones here. Orc attack. Oh, hello. All right, sure. Lemonia. There we go. Lemon. Oh, I feel sick. So yeah, you can play around with some of the presets. These are like adding gels to your settings on your camera. They're fun to play with, and there might be uses for them. Certainly if you're trying to do a show and you're trying to make it so that you look a little bit strange, wait till we get to the AR lenses. Those are pretty cool, but we'll go over here and look at some of these other things here. So overlays and watermarks. Right now I just set up a blank overlay, so there's nothing here. You could also use other overlays here. So like the default that Camo ships with is this one here. And then let me zoom out a little bit. You see there's the Camo Studio logo right here. You're free to use that if you want, but you have the option to not have it on there. You just create a blank one. That's all you do. You create a blank overlay, and this is what you get. One of my favorites, though, is this one. And this is called, you notice the grid pattern that's on me. And this is called the rule of thirds. So the screen is broken up into vertical thirds and horizontal thirds, right? So it gives me 9 independent rectangles. And for framing your shots, when you're putting your shots together, whether it's your phone camera or any other camera for that matter. For instance, this camera here, I've got a grid pattern permanently on, and this allows me to frame my shot correctly. So right here, I have my eye line just about level with the top line here. So this one is also very close to that. So if I just angle my phone slightly forward, there I go. So now I don't have too much space above my head. You can still see what I'm wearing, and it's a nice balanced shot, right? I'm centered on the screen, so I'm centered inside these rectangles here, more or less. I mean, I could shift a little bit, but when this is turned off, you really don't see that. Now, this is just for reference purposes. Okay, so because if you use this particular overlay, it'll show up in Ecamm and then eventually make its way to your broadcast. So if you don't want to keep going to Camo to set this up, there's another way to do it in Ecamm, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So, all right, we'll go back to this screen here. The framing, you can set this up. So this is manual framing. There's all kinds of settings here. So this one, like auto pan, for instance, if I zoom in a little bit, you notice how it kind of tracks me. But again, I'm using digital zoom here, and that's fine. But if you're doing a presentation and you're moving around that much, you might get the fireworks off your butt, because you really should kind of stay put. That's personal opinion. So this is auto with zoom, and they have different icons for how this is set up. So you can see here, you see how it's zooming in and out and what. Okay, so I'm not going to do any of that because I don't want the computer doing anything to me. I'm going to zoom all the way out. Notice here the zoom settings, right? Look at the difference. You see, this is what I was talking about. This is optical zoom. Now let's go back to the telephoto lens. Okay, notice the difference. Look at that. That is much more crisp using the lens instead of using the digital zoom. So avoid using digital zoom. It's great for TikTok and social media and stuff like that. It is not great for your professional presentations. All right, let's go over to the other side here and look at some of the other settings like image enhancements. These, by the way, are all unlocked in the standard free version. What the pro version gets you is the different resolutions that you can stream at. So you don't necessarily want, if your 720p is good enough for you, that's great. But, I would recommend at least 1080, which you can, you do the subscription, see if it works for you. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, you don't have to buy it. That's totally up to you. No pressure. So here, the background settings. So leave my background alone. I could go into portrait mode, which kind of blurs things out. I hate these. Now, no slight on Camo. This is not on them, but you can see, look at that right there. That's funky sauce right there. Right? That's like, okay, that was out of focus and now it's in focus because my face is behind it. It's just weird. Privacy, this is even worse to me. But I guess if you didn't want anybody to see anything around you, you could put it in privacy mode. And then you have replace, where you could put yourself against a green screen, but if you have anything else in the shot, like my microphone here, it's going to cause problems. So, and you can pick a green. You can also choose different colors to put back there. This might be useful in the context of when you want to give the appearance that you're somewhere you're not. And obviously not on the canals of Venice, right? That doesn't look professional. But let's say you get a nice blurry background of an office, or you get a nice blurry background of a house or your studio. You just want to take it, fix it, and then the only thing you have to mess with is the lighting that's on you, which we'll talk about towards the end here. That's totally up to you, but again, you're going to deal with artifacting and what we just saw, and I don't know if it's really worth it. Just set up your studio right and you're good to go. And that's all part of this course too. Filters, you can, like I have a sun-kissed filter here, and so you can see it brings out a lot of the orange hues. So if I'm trying to go with, say, a little bit more of the Bootcamp color scheme, I could use sun-kissed. I can also import what's called a LUT. And LUT is a lookup table, and you'll see LUTs in the professional version of Ecamm as well. These are essentially like color filters that you can apply to your camera's image to enhance certain looks. So if you're trying to bring out blues or cyans and then some beige, you could do that here. There is also a gallery that will pull up a gallery, and here you can see there's different versions of that. So let's say, here, this is pretty obvious. But if I chose false color, you see that's what I get. We're just going to go to, I'm going to just turn it off. But, I could select warm if I wanted to. And this one actually is nice because it does warm up the scene a bit, but it's not natural given the type of lighting that I put in here, so I'm just going to select none. I like to be in control of my lighting. I don't like it to be controlled by a camera filter, but let's say you're in a hotel room, or you're in a conference center, or you're somewhere where you have absolutely zero control over the color of the lighting, but you want to set the mood with a specific tint or a color background. These filters combined with the presets, those things all can work their way towards making it look better than what it would look like just in whatever place you are. Then this is to me the fun part. So I can do mute background, and that's what happens here. So now the background has had pretty much all the contrast removed from it. And, if you're trying to highlight yourself, great. And with the case of the black microphone here, it works out nicely because the microphone's already kind of desaturated. There's a basic portrait mode, which, again, this is a little bit funky because you see right over there, you see that's in focus, right? And look what it does to the microphone. This kind of stuff is distracting to your audience, so I don't mess with that. But of course, if you want to get really distracting, you can do this. You could switch to emoji hands. So if your thumbs up, got to match it there. There we go. This is a little bit of an unnatural pose for me, but you could do that. Face follow. Now this one is, see, my face kind of stays upright, but everything around kind of tilts. We're in an earthquake. So again, this stuff will be transmitted to Ecamm, so you have to be super careful that you're not overdoing it, because you will overdo it. And there's always this propensity, especially for new users, not calling you new users out, but there is a propensity for you to want to be able to use all these whiz-bang features, things that you've never been able to do before. And that's fine. You can play. That's the whole purpose of this course, play. But when it comes to actually making a presentation that's professional looking and something that you would be able to wear, let's say, a suit in front of, this kind of stuff ain't it. And you want to go even further, you can say, I'm not here. Well, I'm here, but you know what? I always wondered, whoa. See, so this is what I'm doing right now. Hey, I can wear these. I'm a pilot. So so you could play around with these filters all day long. Matter of fact, there was one on here I saw last night that was, well, this one, the 8-bit's kind of cool. This reminds me of, you remember Light Bright? If you're old enough to remember that, then you're old like me. Light Bright was, you know, one of those things where you had the black construction paper over the single incandescent bulb, and you poke holes with these plastic pegs that were colored to give you this effect that you see here. It's kind of like that. There is a Jaguar, so if I want to... see, that doesn't work. It'd be nice to have pause too. But this actually reminds me of a time in Mardi Gras. Yeah, I won't go into details. Fred's on my head. Fred's up there. Hey, get off. And then you have other things. Starry Night. They start to get really kind of psychedelic. So you have to be like, hey, I wonder if I'm still in the thirds. Let's see. Yep, look at that. My eye line's still in the thirds. I just have a much bigger head. Okay, so enough fun with that stuff. But that's all available to you on Camo if you want to. All right, so then you have things like exposure and white balance and your other settings here. So exposure and white balance. We're not going to get into the details right now. I would just leave this on auto, especially if you have a fixed lighting environment like I have here. I will show you how to set up white balance correctly. I'll show you how to set up exposure correctly. If you know how to do that already, for instance, if I know that I want a specific setting for my shutter speed, I can do that. And I'm at 30 frames a second, so I'm going to set it to 160. Oops. I can't really. This is where my eyes. All right. So we do 1/60th. Nope, that was definitely not. 1 divided by 60. There we go. Usually speaking, you double your shutter speed to that of your frame rate. So I'm at 30 frames per second. So I'm already going into this part of the class I said I'd do later. White balance, I know that all my lights are set at roughly 4600. So I'm just going to plug in 4600 here. And it really won't make that much of a difference. But the difference overall means if it's not on auto mode, it will stay fixed. And that's what you want. You don't want things, you don't want color shifting, exposure shifting. You want all that fixed because that's very distracting. As a matter of fact, I just did a interview with my grandfather down in Louisiana, and he was in, the sun was coming into the room. And as the sun came into the room, I forgot to set the fixed exposure, but what happened is that the camera would adjust for the increased light, and so it would reduce exposure, and then as the light went away, it would increase exposure, so there's a lot of ups and downs, and the end result is actually quite jarring, especially if you play back fast. It's not something I'd recommend. So I like setting these settings just to where I want it. Oh, and then ISO. I know that my camera's in here. I've got set at about 250. So that's what I'm going to set this one to, 250. All right. And we have got things going. Now, there's other things you can set here, like a flash level. If I wanted to crank that up, I do not need this because I already have. You can see what it's doing, especially right here on the microphone. See how it's lighting it up? I don't need that. You want some contrast here. And if you add too much light, especially dead on light, what's going to happen is it's going to flatten your image, and then there won't be enough contrast. And doesn't look as good. You can also mess with your hues, saturation, other settings here. These settings also exist inside Ecamm. So what I would do here is set the things that you can't set in Ecamm, like your exposure, like your shutter speed and your ISO, your white balance, that kind of stuff. I would do that here and then let Ecamm handle any kind of colorization, filters, or anything else you want to do to it. Personally, that's how I would do it. And I also wouldn't use much of the AR stuff. But the AR stuff would be great if you're trying to do some comical things. You know, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of stuff for it. Also, one more thing on the overlays, the watermarks and overlays here, you can add graphics to the screen, which means you could have a lower third here with, say, your name and your title. You can also do that in Ecamm. The thing is, the difference between the two is that the one in Ecamm is dynamic and the one in Camo is fixed. So let's go ahead and we'll leave this as is. And so we know the camera's working. If you're not getting a camera feed here, there's a few things to check. Check to make sure you're using USB. Check to make sure that you're running the app on your iPhone and that you've properly installed the app on your Macintosh. Camo Studio is available, again, in the menu bar up top. And just by clicking on there and then selecting, you can also do things like you pause that feed if you want. You can record video, you can pick your lens. So a lot of the things that I'm setting in the user interface right now, you could quick select from here, right? So I'm just going to leave this alone at the moment. And then we're going to tuck Camo away. All right. So next step, testing our audio, setting up our audio. This one, fortunately, is pretty easy. Matter of fact, you know what? I'm going to bring Camo. Well, you know what? Let's do this. Let's go ahead and start up Ecamm. And then that way I can talk to this camera, instead of talking to you, because it's kind of back and forth. I'm going to talk to this camera, but I need to bring Ecamm up to make that happen so we can all do it together. All right. So fire up Ecamm. If you haven't downloaded it already, go to ecamm.com. And you'll be initially you'll be on this part of the site. Click on download Ecamm Live. And then, okay, well, just started downloading. And then what'll happen is a file will come down. It'll come down as a folder. And then you just drag the contents of that folder, which is right here, Ecamm Live, to your applications folder. Once you've done that, then you can go down, or you can inside applications in your Finder window. So for instance, I have it here in my dock, but let's say you have that yet. If you go to applications, and then you'll see Ecamm Live right here. So if I double click that, that'll launch Ecamm. Here I am. Whoa, here I am. Now, what may come up, what may come up is this. You have a login screen and a sign up screen. So if you've never run Ecamm before or you have logged out of your account, this screen will come up. If you go sign up, this is not signing up to purchase the product. This is signing up to create an account with Ecamm. So I would recommend using an email that you can get access to, because that's the email that will be associated with your account should you decide to subscribe or get a subscription or do the annual plan. But you want to make sure that you set up your email here and get the correct email for anything. You basically just want to have access to your email. First name, last name, and I already have an account, of course. So I'm going to log in. And boom, I can now see if you're in trial mode and you haven't purchased anything, you'll see this Pro icon show up. That is, for me, I already have an account with Pro, so this is what I see. And the Pro, I'll go over what the Pro features entail in the next lesson, so that lessons 3 and 4 will all be about the user interface. This is just getting things going. Okay. So here I am. I got the microphone here. It's all working except, see, this microphone is actually tied into the camera that's doing the recording right now, which is right off the screen. As a matter of fact, you can kind of see if I wave here, you see my face. There I am. So I'm actually recording the audio. So where's this feed coming from? Well, it tells you immediately in this audio meter here. It'll tell you where it's coming from. In this case, it's the MacBook Pro microphone. Now, this default scene, by the way, I'll show you how to, when we get to the user interface, I'll show you how to set this up properly, because I don't necessarily like having every new scene I create in Ecamm. What's a scene? I'll get to that. But I don't like having this default to the camera view, because oftentimes my camera does not occupy the entire screen. So if you've started Ecamm and this is what you see, fine. So why would I not use my MacBook Pro microphone? Well, if you can see down here on my keyboard, the microphones are located right here, right? They're right here. And guess what also happens to be right there? Yeah, your fans. And once those fans kick in the high gear, matter of fact, as soon as I fired up Ecamm, they started running, and they're going to get louder and louder and louder. The microphone that's built into your laptop works great in a pinch if you're FaceTiming with family or even friends. But if you're doing professional presentations, I simply do not recommend using the onboard microphone. I don't care what anybody says or what Apple says about the professional quality of their speakers and their microphones. There's only so much you can do. Physics is physics. There's only so much you can do to make it so that your microphone sounds good when it's embedded right next to the fans inside a chassis. What you need instead is an external microphone. So there's lots of different companies that make microphones. Obviously, I've got one here. This is my professional setup that I use in studio here. I'll talk about this microphone in other videos down the road. You'll also be able to find them, a specific review on this microphone later on. But in a pinch, especially if you're going portable like you have your MacBook Pro portable, you can get yourself what's called, well, not what's called, it's named the Rode VideoMic. Now, this is the VideoMic Go 2. So this is a super cardioid pickup pattern, which means if I pull this little windshield off, it picks up right here and rejects noise from the side. So it's almost like it almost looks like this, as far as the pickup pattern on the microphone, which is great. So you aim this at your mouth, not this close because then that looks silly, but you aim this at your mouth and you're going to get decent audio. And I'll show you how to set those things up. But this particular microphone doesn't require a battery. It actually is powered through USB-C in this case. And it also has a 3.5 millimeter monitoring port, or this can also act as as a way to connect to, say, a camera. So what's cool is that this is a multifunction. For $100, you get a really nice microphone that can be used in your Ecamm presentations, but also if you're taking things on the road, and if you do have a camera, like a nicer camera that you're going to use for doing content creation, things like that, you can put this in the cold shoe mount of your camera, and then it'll slide on and it'll pick up much better audio than even your camera can do. So generally speaking, I would recommend these. Now, Rode has not paid for anything here. They haven't, I'm not getting any kickbacks. Most of the content is all 100% my personal usage with these products. I've used a ton of products. If you looked at my Amazon ordering history, you'd be shocked how much stuff I've purchased and then how much stuff I've returned, and things that basically I either like or don't like. I do like this or VideoMic Go 2. They should have called it the 2 Go, but whatever. And I'm not in their marketing department. So how does this one work? Well, it's simple. You take your USB-C connector and you pop it in. Now, I also have a USB cable hanging off of here. You know what? I'm just going to pull this off for the sake of right now because it's a distraction. So I've got a USB-C cable that's already plugged into my laptop, and I'm going to plug this in right to it. And now, I don't know if you can see, but you see that little light that's on right there? That's indicating that it's getting power. And if I tap it and you see how it turns red like that, that means I have gone outside of this microphone's range and it's going to start to pick up static, which is no bueno. So you want to make sure that it's called clipping audio. You don't want to do any kind of audio clipping on your microphones. And you can see, for instance, right here inside Ecamm, notice that my level meter here, you see how it's getting into the yellow? And this is the MacBook microphone. So if I'm quiet for a second, you see how much noise it's picking up from the fans? This should be going down to close to 0. And it's not. It's actually, it's mid-range. So that's how much noise this microphone's picking up. Let me be silent one more time. Okay, so you probably can't hear that because all the audio is going through this microphone right now. But the nice thing about having an off computer microphone is that it will not pick up this noise, and especially a super cardioid mic like this one, it's going to pick up only what's in front of you and reject most of the sounds around you. It will pick up some ambient noise, and the further it gets away from your mouth, the more ambient noise it will pick up and less strong your voice will appear to be. So I've got this connected. I also have, you can look down in the lower view here, you can see I've got a little tripod set up here, and I'm just going to slide this microphone into the cold shoe mount like that. And now that's in, screw it down. And you can see now the microphone it's on a tripod. Now, I bought this. This is a tripod from Manfrotto. I think I paid $20 for it. It's collapsible, which is nice. So you can actually hold it if you want to. But what's nice about this one is that you can also tuck it in your bag and it doesn't occupy that much space. And then when it's on the desktop, you notice, well, you can't really see it. Can you see it, Dan? Yeah, see, I've got one leg up on the laptop and I've got the other two legs on the desktop here on the table surface. Why would I do that? Well, I want to try and get this mic again as close as possible to me. So now I'm looking at the microphone. It is pointing like line of sight. It's going right to the microphone. You can see it in the shot here, which, you know, that's not necessarily, it's like I've obviously got this microphone here. Do you want the microphone in the shot? Perhaps not, which means that you may want to position it off camera. Just keep in mind, the further it gets away from your mouth, the more obvious it's going to be that it's not a very powerful mic. And if you wanted to do something like the custom branding, like if you wanted, you know, Rode's little microphone muffler, if you wanted to have that so you look like official, you could do that. Totally up to you. I leave it off because this is great for wind and pop. Like when you use like P and B, it'll pop sometimes. That's called a plosive. It's not explosive, not implosive, not impulsive, a plosive. And the plosives are what gets picked up by the microphone if your mouth is too close to the microphone. This one's far enough away right now. This is a good foot away. So that's what, 30 centimeters? Is that right? 30 centimeters? Yeah. Or so away from my mouth. And that's more than enough distance to where it's not going to pick up any plosives. But notice that the microphone here, even though it's plugged in, is still saying MacBook microphone. So if I switch this now, you can see, if I click on it now, you see VideoMic Go 2. So I tap that. Look at the difference. I'm not talking and it's barely picking up any noise whatsoever. But when I do start talking, notice how that green bar moves over. That's what you want. That's exactly what you want, because that means that it's doing a great job of blocking out any kind of other noises. The fans are, I mean, literally 3 or 4 inches away from this microphone, but because it's got this super cardioid pattern, pickup pattern, and that all it means is that where the microphone is looking to pick up audio, this is aimed right at my mouth, and that's where it's going to focus its pickup. It's not going to worry about what's behind it or off to the side, especially stuff that's off to the rear of the microphone. So this is perfect for travel, and it's perfect for most studio setups too. There is an upgrade to this microphone called the it's the VideoMic NTG. All right, so how do you test this stuff? Well, there's really an easy way to do this without doing anything else in Ecamm. Go to QuickTime, right? And QuickTime's built on to every single Macintosh, right? A window will always come up. I don't know why Apple does this, but it comes up with a window asking you to load a file. I don't want to do that. I go up to the File menu and I pick New Movie Recording, or if you just want the audio, New Audio Recording. So I'll do New Movie Recording, and look what happens. So here I am. You can see right here, this is the audio meter, and it's if you're not careful, this audio meter it'll blast out. If it gets much further out than where it is right now, it will sound bad. So how do you pick your camera? How do you pick, let's say this camera doesn't come up or this microphone doesn't come up. If you click on the little down arrow next to the record button, you can say your camera is the Camo camera. Let's see here. So you choose camera, Camo camera, okay? And then your microphone is going to be the Rode VideoMic Go 2. So that's set up for me. I'm ready to rock and roll. Now the screen that it's playing back on is, none of this stuff really matters. Screen, speakers, all that stuff. We're going to record, and you won't hear anything until we play it back. So let me go ahead and click record. Hey there. Well, this is our first test of both Camo and Camo Studio and using the VideoMic Go 2 in preparation for our Ecamm class. How do I look? How do I sound? Testing 1, 2, 3. And you stop it, and then you just play it back. Hey there, well this is our first test of both Camo and Camo Studio and using the VideoMic Go 2 in preparation for our Ecamm class. How do I look? How do I sound? Testing 1, 2, 3. That's it. That's all you got to do. If that's all working, you are good to go. You, as Doc likes to say, you're in there like swimwear. You don't have to save it. Just close it, say delete, because I know it's going to work. So now I'm locked and loaded. I am ready to go as far as recording in Ecamm. So you've made it this far. Congratulations. Now, if you're using different hardware, don't fret. There are certain ways to set things up, particularly for your setup, whatever it is, the hardware you're using, whether it's the microphone or the camera. If it's a little bit different, it's no big deal. Just keep in mind that any camera that has a digital interface, meaning USB, you're going to just simply be able to plug it directly into the computer. If your camera has HDMI out, and HDMI, I'll put a little graphic on the screen here for you to see what HDMI looks like. I'm sure you've probably seen it if you are at all involved in editing or using any TV in the last decade. You've seen HDMI. HDMI is going to require a capture board to be able to record your content. For instance, what you're seeing right now, I'm feeding out of my Macintosh laptop, my MacBook Pro, into the HDMI output from the Macintosh. So I'm capturing the entire screen this way, and then I'm feeding it over into the Mac Mini next to me here, and that's how I'm recording this entire presentation, this entire lesson, is through the capture device. So there's multiple ways to do it. Audio-wise, again, I would not spend any time, I wouldn't waste any time using the built-in camera, like the FaceTime HD camera. For instance, let me just do this. I can switch this quickly in Camo. So if I go to device and I select FaceTime HD, look what it does. See how messed up that is? Look at that. That's the FaceTime HD camera. Don't mess with this. I have no control over this thing. Now, obviously, Camo gives me some capabilities, but nope, I ain't gonna do it. So I'm gonna go back to my iPhone 14 because I like that one. There we go. It looks way better, way better. And then for microphone, don't use the mic on your MacBook. And obviously, if you're using like a Mac Mini like I am over here to record things, I don't even have a microphone to begin with. Matter of fact, all the audio is going through this mic here. So there is no external mic set up on that Mac Mini. There's no built-in camera I'm using, even though I have three Apple Thunderbolt monitors. All of them have built-in FaceTime cameras. Those cameras are from 10 years ago, plus 10 years ago. So generally not the latest technology, and certainly not as new as the iPhone 14 or 15. Or 16 when that comes out. So I would advise against using any of those. Use the camera, and then the microphone, same thing. All those displays have built-in mics. They suck. And don't worry, I keep it PG here, but I also have, just in case I get a little bit off topic or I get a little bit energetic about things, because I can tend to do that sometimes, especially when it comes to audio and video. All right, one last thing before we wrap this lesson: lighting setup. Now, clearly, I am lit differently than my background, because my background's all purples and blues and reds going on, and I'm natural skin tone. How does this work? Well, I've got a 3-point light setup where I have 2 lights that are up on either side of me. One is from a company called Elgato. You might be familiar with them. Elgato produces a light called the key light. And then on the other side, I'm using what's called a parabolic softbox on a 60-watt circuit on board LED that is it kind of does a diffusion pattern, and it also has, as a matter of fact, you can see one up in the corner here, and if I turn it on real quick, you can see it. There's another one that I have, but I'm not using that one right now. So I have 2 lights, 45 degrees split, 45 degrees up. Now, I also have, I have this kind of shelf here. So I like to have a light in front of me. So you see back over here on top of this monitor, you see that light right there? I've got another one sitting right on top of this laptop here. It's not very bright. I've set it that way. It's called the Litra from Logitech. These are great entry-level lights. They're not something that you're going to use long-term, but in the interest of having your lighting constant when you're on the road or when you're in a situation where you don't have specific light control, this is good to have because it does provide a nice diffused pattern on your face. This gives you a much better look. If I were to turn it off, you would see way more darkness around my eyes, and I'm not a big fan of that. I get plenty of sleep, believe it or not, but still, it seems like my eyes are sinking slowly back into my skull as I get older. The more salt that shows up with my pepper, seems like my eyes start to recede as well. Whatever. That's hair receding, eyes receding. See, it makes sense now. Doctors could have just told me that, and I would have been, I don't know if I would have been fine with it, but I would at least known what to expect, right? So I'll put links to the Elgato light. I'll put links to the newer light. The company, it looks like it's spelled and pronounced Newer, but they call it Newer. It's I wouldn't say it's an off-brand, but it's not the most expensive light that you can buy out there. I'm trying not to get you to plunk down a ton of cash. I know that you're investing already in this project, and I don't want you to spend extra money when you don't have to. So I would advise against adding things until you've got yourself situated in a room where you know you're going to do your recording, and then you can figure out your lighting. And then finally, I do have a light back behind me. It's up and back behind me. You can't see it, but if I turn it off, you can. See that? Very, very subtle. That's called a hair light. And while I still have some, I like to illuminate it's kind of the back or almost the crown of your head more towards the back. And what that does is it gives you some separation between you and your background. So you want to pop out, right? You want to give the appearance of being in that third dimension, in the Z axis from the camera, and provide depth, especially when you're dealing with a camera like the iPhone that doesn't have a way to really blur all that much with the fixed aperture settings that it's got on these lenses. The only way you're going to get that nice soft blur in the background that is physically accurate is using a more professional product. A lot of the Sony mirrorless cameras, but then you're talking, $600-700 minimum investment, and we're trying not to, again, break the bank. So we'll talk about that in the intermediate camera courses later on. But as far as what the beginner class is going to do, your iPhone should suffice. You're not going to get a super blurry background, just deal with it. But you will get this nice separation with the lighting, and I think this is a great way to start. You already look $1 million better than you did when you started this. So we'll get into other details and things like that as far as the way that we do the practical lighting, the colored lights and things like that. We'll talk about that throughout the course, and I'll touch on certain subjects from time to time. So that's that. You're ready to rock and roll. You're locked and loaded. You're ready to go. So now the next step is we're going to trudge, slog through the user interface, because as you can see here, there's a lot to go through. And this is just the panels around the main screen here, this main window. There are a multitude of pull-down menus to go through as well. I'm going to try and explain each one as a practical use. They are documented online in a lot of different places, but I want you to understand how to use them. See, I'm the kind of guy, like, I went from numbers equaling numbers to letters equaling numbers, and I didn't understand that. And it wasn't until I got into programming where I was like, oh, of course, variables make sense now. But I'm the kind of person that likes to actually put things into use, and that's the best way for me to understand it. Hopefully you're like that too, because I'm not going to talk a lot of theory. I'm going to talk a lot of application. So that's been a long second lesson. Again, thank you so much for your support and enrolling in the class. I couldn't be happier, and I'm really looking forward to the next 12 lessons with you as we go through the Ecamm interface in the next 2 lessons, and then we make our way to our first broadcast and then our first interview. It's going to be fun. Okay, till then, take a break. And if you want to come back and start hacking away at the interface, just keep in mind it's a 2-parter, so set aside at least a few hours to go through those next 2 lessons. Okay, take care. See you soon. Bye.